Well, good evening, everybody. This is Bob Van Buren once again for the Van Buren Variety Show. Thank you all for being here. To my regulars that show up week after week, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the support. Staying with me. This is episode 105. And I owe a big deal of gratitude to the guests that's been on my show, to my subscribers and audience, and even to the newcomers that keep popping in. So don't think we're not seeing you and recognizing you. So I have to tell you, if you are a newcomer or you've been watching these shows and you like what you see, I think if you look real carefully, there's a subscribe button right there. And that way you'll get updates on the next guest and future topics. So I am on the air every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Central and 8 p.m. Eastern. So make sure if you can't get the live show, hey, these shows are out here indefinitely, so you can definitely catch the recording later if you can't catch the live show. And if you have a special talent, a hobby, or a profession, let me know. This is a variety show, so I have everybody, all talents are welcome here. I'd love to promote your product or promote your talent, so just let me know. And you'll see an email address for the show at the end of this show, so stay tuned. I hope you've all had a great week so far. I have to show you something. Now, as some of you have seen my shows, I have a cat, and I have learned that the cat has to stay outside the studio while I'm doing this show because, as you know, as some of you have seen, she crashes the show and likes to get on the back of my chair here when the show has nothing to do with cats. So, but anyway, the cat, yeah, she's my pet, but she can't be on the show anymore. She can't contain herself. She's a ham. But for those of you that have a cat, I gotta tell you, I don't know if I know all cats aren't the same, but this is one of my cat's favorite toys, and something a little nothing. It's a little cloth-looking mouse. That will keep her occupied for hours. And so I got this at the local grocery store. So if you have a cat that gets bored often, they're just little cloth-looking mouse. And look at this. She's already tore the stuffing out of it. That's how much she likes it. So there's my promo. I don't know who makes this, but my cat loves these little play mice. So keep that in mind if you have a cat. Now, I've got some little bit of bad news tonight. I have a guest tonight, but we are experiencing some technical issues. You know, when you go live and you do these shows live, when you have technical issues, you just got to keep going. And that's what we're going to do tonight. So I want to preface this show by saying that tonight's guest will be back. It's not her fault, not my fault, that there's some technical issues going on. I will show her in a minute, but to really do justification for her work and her book, I am going to show a little bit tonight. And then we'll reschedule again once we get all these bugs and ghosts out of the system. So you won't be able to hear her. There is some kind of sound issue going on. I'm hoping that you can all hear me okay, me and my big mouth. So let me bring her on, and then we'll talk about her work. And again, we can only see her now. We can't hear her. But again, I want to stress that she will be back because she's got a great book that you're all going to find interesting. I know I do. So without further ado, let me bring on my guest tonight, Marilyn Kriete. Marilyn, welcome to the show, and I'm so sorry that we're having these technical issues. So ladies and gentlemen, she's not being disrespectful by not saying anything. There's just something going on where the sound is just not coming through with her. But let me just give you a little bio about her, and then I'll show you her interesting book. She does have a website. In fact, let me go ahead and bring that up now. And you can read for yourself her bio, what she's been doing, and then kind of prepare yourself for the next time she's on this show. So let me do that now while we're here. And there it is. That is her website. You can see her work. You can see you can read her bio. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read her bio now so you can get more who she is and kind of what her work is. So I'm just going to read verbatim what's on her website, and I'll read it as she's written it. This is about Marilyn. After colorful years spent in 4 continents and 16 cities, working as a cook, chambermaid, waitress, fisherwoman, missionary, speaker, teacher, tutor, and academic writing editor, I now live in British Columbia with my super supportive husband and 2 attention-seeking cats. Oh, another cat lover. You got points for that, Marilyn. We have 2 grown kids and a beloved grandchild, all living too far away. Besides my favorite activities, writing and dreaming, I enjoy hiking, cycling, blogging, playing word games, watching documentaries, having deep talks, and reading other people's memoirs. My poetry and nonfiction have appeared in the Lyric, Storyteller, the Eastern Iowa Review, the English Bay Review, Brevity Blog, and Longreads. Lately, I've become a serial memoirist with 2 published memoirs and 2 more in the works. My unconventional life has been full of adventure and challenges, and I'd be a fool not to share what I've learned, usually the hard way, with whoever will listen. My relationship with God is my greatest treasure. Whatever wisdom I might share comes from Him. And she's got several pictures in here, and there's a bookstore, she has a blog, all things that you would be very, very interested in. So check out this website here. So I want to share one of the books that she'll be talking about at a later date when we get all these stupid gremlins out of the system. This is her, Marilyn, is this your latest book here? That's your latest book. Okay, let me read that. For those of you that maybe are on the phone, you can't read that. At the very top it says, a memoir of complicated grief, spiritual despair, and ultimate healing. The box must be empty. Now that in itself is is very tantalizing. So let me see if I can find a. Well, she does. Marilyn, do you mind me reading from the website what it's about? And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are just tuning in, we're having some technical sound issue. That's why Marilyn, you can't hear her. I can't either. And so I'm real sorry about that. But Marilyn will be back. So let me read the details of this book, and you'll definitely want to hear her talk the next time she's on the show. This is about her book, The Box Must Be Empty, and I'll be reading it directly from her website. It will be available April 4th of 2023. That's not too far. So you can pre-order it now, though, on her website, April 4th, 2023. Let's see if we can get the box must be empty. Now, I'm reading it, Marilyn. Is this it's something about Paradise Road? Is this kind of a sequel? Is this part of it? I know you can't really tell me. Book 1. Okay, I'll read that from her website. And ladies and gentlemen, when I read this, you will be interested. So again, The Box Must Be Empty. The book you're seeing now will be available April 4th, 2023, and you can pre-order it now. Here it is. Paradise Road tells the first part of my story. Here's what happened next. What happens when buried grief rises 2 decades late, upending the life you built on its coffin. When your old grief seems inappropriate, and your heart wrestles with grief upon grief as you move too many times and lose too many friendships? How do you recover from a devastated marriage, a crushed faith, and an endlessly broken heart? This is the crux of Marilyn's crisis. After losing her first great love to cancer, she becomes a Christian, marries Henry, and joins him in a hectic worldwide ministry that leaves little room for personal reflection. When her old grief unexpectedly resurfaces, she's shocked by the tsunami that rips through their lives. And when intensive counseling fails to bring healing, and Henry later pens a letter that decimates their churches and spins them out of fellowship, her battered heart is tested beyond imagining. Exploring delayed and complicated grief in its many disguises, dashed dreams, disenchantment, family troubles, and the guilt of being a former faith leader, now grappling with depression and dismay, Marilyn candidly shares her long journey back to wholeness. So, Marilyn, I mean, like I said, I guess I saw the title. This is kind of an autobiography, would you say, about your life. Okay. See, I like that. It sounds like a survivor story too. I like stories like that. Oh, and so, oh man, it just kills me that we can't hear you. Oh, wow. But yeah, you'll definitely be back, ladies and gentlemen. She will definitely be back when we get all this stuff worked out. Let me display her website again. And Marilyn, I'm probably not saying your name right. I assume that's Kriete, but no, it's not. But close. Okay. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, in case for those of you that's just hearing the audio of this, her website is her full name. It's MarilynKriete.com. And if you go to her website, you'll see about her, about me. There's a bookstore, there's a blog, there's reviews, and there's a way you can contact her. She's got a newsletter sign up. And then probably I can speak for Marilyn as all the other authors that's been on this show. If you like the book, okay, leave her a review. That way she knows, give her the thumbs up. Yeah, let her know that you really like the book and refer it, to anybody, that would benefit from that. And we all have, I will say this, we all have our survivor stories, when it seems like the end. I have been there so many times where I just like, you know what, that's the end of Bob. I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore, Sometimes, Lord, take me. I just can't do it. So this sounds like a survivor story, especially, Marilyn, for people that are at that point right now where they don't see any hope. Like you said, a devastated marriage, a breakup, family crisis, work crisis. It sounds like something that, we could draw strength from. Okay, well, Marilyn, I will continue with the show. I'll let you go, but again, you will be back. We'll definitely, and even when you're signed off now, I will definitely keep talking about your book, and definitely keep. In fact, during the rest of the show, I'm going to keep your website up so people realize what the show's about. So, Marilyn, thank you for being on the show. I'm sorry things turned out. That I'll get with a friend of mine, and we'll try to work the gremlins out of this show, and if we can see if we can locate it, and we'll definitely reschedule. Have a great evening, Marilyn. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to keep going. I got a few things I do want to talk about. I'm sorry, Marilyn's the sound system wasn't just doing too well tonight, but we will have a show tonight. In fact, what I thought I'd do is, since we kind of make this an interactive show, if you want. And what I'm going to do right now, and I'll do this on both channels right now, I'm going to put the link in the chat room. So anybody that wants to come in, let me know. And then that way, if there are still some sound issues going on, we know it wasn't just Marilyn, it wasn't just this internet, it's good old Bob's computer being difficult. So, well, that's not going to happen. There's not going to be a puppet show tonight. No. So, unless I'm the puppet. What are you trying to say, Overbuilt? So, what I'd like to do is, before anybody, if anybody doesn't sign on or whatever, I talked about problems, Now, the book that Marilyn has, obviously, is about real life, serious problems. We've all, a lot of us have seen that. Destroyed marriages, just the stress levels are just off the chart, But, one thing I used to do is stress a lot. And I used to worry what other people think. And that was not a good thing. Specifically coworkers. And before I'd be like, why did they say that? Why did they do that? Or it couldn't, not just a boss, it could be a coworker. Just, you can't get along with everybody all the time. So what I did is like, what? Let me turn this into something positive. So a job that I had more than 20 years ago now, it was one of the worst jobs I ever had. I actually wrote a play. I wrote a play about my experiences, but I turned it into a comedy. The name of the play was Office War. I haven't published it yet. I need to clean it up. It's kind of way too long for a theater play, but of course I made the coworker and the manager that I dealt with look like complete morons, and that felt good. But of course, I had to change names, change dates. Don't want to get sued. Luckily, though, but things have worked out. I've got a job now that I love the boss, the coworkers. I mean, everybody gets along, but I don't know what it was with this other job that I had. It was just, you turn, you talk to somebody, you turn your back, and you could feel the knife going in, quite literally. And one of the things that I thought was really amazing about this job is, I can't say the name, but I'll put it this way: we had a coworker that no matter what you're good at, I'll say you personally watching this, no matter what your forte is, he can do it better. At least he says he can do it better, or he knows a better way of doing it than what you're doing it. Mr. Perfect, and he would just criticize people for doing the least little thing, try to make you feel like you're an idiot. Now, he wasn't a manager. Needless to say, he didn't have many friends. So that used to just get on my nerves so much. And he would, and I can't even mock his saying, but it would be like, I know how to do that better. Yeah, better means a different way, right? Yeah. No, and he could not follow directions to save his life. Like I said, I can laugh about it now. See, I was mad at the time. You give him a list of instructions, he's got to change it. He cannot follow directions. He's looking for ways to do it differently. And I'm just like, really? So that stuff like that used to get on my nerves really, really bad. But, later on, you're like, you know what? Pray for him. I hope he had a good life after we all got laid off from that company. It was not a good deal. And then one time, another job, I was the supervisor. I actually was the manager. And I managed 4 people in this department. And there were 2 ladies in this department. And they were much older than I was, even back then, But we had cubicles. I had an office, and those 4 people were in cubicles outside. I felt like I was a teacher in the first grade. These ladies, 2 ladies, their cubicles were side by side. They couldn't get along to save their life. And they would argue. And they'd fight. So me, the younger guy, the supervisor, I had to separate them like you would do children. I had to put one on this side and this one on the other far side of the cube. So and it was just petty stuff they would fight about. And they would blame each other for something going wrong. I'm like, you know what? I don't care what went wrong, but it was always the other person's fault. And so that was another thing I experienced. I'm like, and after that was one of the last times I was a boss. I'm like, in fact, there was a threat one time that they were going to post a sign on my department, adult daycare. And that's about the way it was. I mean, oh man, the stories I could tell there as well. I mean, we've all had bad coworkers and bad, bosses. But yeah, see, I can laugh about it because I've turned it into something positive. And I think that would be my advice. If you've gone through something and maybe either holding a grudge or something making you mad, I personally, my outlet has been writing. I can write about it, but I'll write it from my point of view, but put a comic spin on it, and just kind of make it funny. And then that was my forte. That's how I don't dwell on things anymore. It was quite quite hairy at one time, and I'm thinking of so many experiences. And then there was a lady who got fired because she wanted to take off from work, but she wanted to ask everybody but her boss if she could take off. Okay? Her and the boss weren't getting along, but why would I, as your coworker, tell you that it's okay to take off from work that next day when my boss didn't say that? Because what would she say? Oh, Bob told me that I can take off. And then who gets in trouble? Yeah. But one of the biggest political ones was with another lady who didn't get along with their boss. Now, this is somebody else. But it all culminated one morning. I'll never forget that. When the supervisor came in and she said good morning to me because she saw me. I'm standing right there working on a machine. The other lady, my coworker, is in the back, but she's probably in the back. So the supervisor said good morning to me. I don't think she saw that other lady. So the supervisor leaves the room. This other lady that was behind me, who didn't get along with the boss, she comes up to me. Did you see that? What? I don't know what you're talking about. She said good morning to you, but she didn't say good morning to me. And I'm like, so-and-so, she probably didn't see you because you were back there behind some other machine. She ends up confronting my supervisor out in the hall because she didn't say good morning to her. Yeah, they got into a huge argument. I didn't hear it. I didn't want to be a part of it. So what does this woman do? Not the supervisor, the troublemaking coworker, goes to my boss's boss, our boss's boss, gives him an ultimatum. You don't, and I know this guy, you don't give this guy ultimatum. You don't give any boss ultimatum. Said that, well, it's either me or her, the supervisor. And my boss has pretty much said, bye. Like, go away. And so, yeah, she walked out. She did not last that day. I'm like, and she was always getting her feelings hurt. And she would say that out loud to somebody. I can't mock it, but this is what it sounded like. And I've gotten this treatment too. Bob, you hurt my feelings. And she was older than I am, by the way. And she would actually start crying sometime if she thought somebody was, quote, mean to her. And I had the displeasure of trying to train that lady. And you can imagine how that went. Because one time I was going through the notes and she did it wrong. I pointed it out. I'll say Kathy, that was not her name. Okay. So Kathy, wait a minute, you can't go any further with these notes. You did something wrong. She'd actually like throw the book down and like fold up and pout. And then and finally she's like, she accused me of not training her right. And I said, well, Kathy, what do you want me to do? I said, do you want me to train you and let you go through the notes? If you do something wrong, don't say something till the very end. Or do you want me to tell you as you're making the mistake? She's like, well, I want you to tell me as I'm making the mistake. I'm like, that's what I'm doing. But you're getting upset. She lasted 6 months, 7 months. And that was the longest 6-7 months of my life in a department. So, yeah. But when you write a story and you make something funny, you can find the rainbow in it. I mean, it was really good. And so, like I said, I need to do something with that play, with that script. But the reason I haven't is because I went to a publishing company, and this particular publishing company wants it in a different size font than what I had it, double spaced. Well, when I did that, I realized it was more than 200 pages. And they say when you do a play, each page takes about 1 minute to perform on stage. Okay, if my play is 200 pages, that is 200 minutes. That's more than a 3-hour play. That's way too long. So I've had the displeasure of trying to cut some scenes, and I'm like, oh no, I hate cutting that scene. That's a funny, but you've got to cut it down. No one's going to sit through a 3-hour play, even if it is a comedy. And so, believe me, I had loads of material about to put in there. And like I said, that was 20 years ago. But yeah, and so sometimes I'll dig the play out. And I'm like, you know what? I almost forgot about that. And a part of me wanted to throw it away. I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't keep this. This is like some really, really bad memories. But now that I put the comic twist on that, it's been a load. It's been a load of fun. In fact, let me go back to the other guy that I talked about earlier. The guy that thought he could do things better. For our purposes here, I'll call him Egbert, but that wasn't his name. That was the name I gave him in the play that I wrote. I call him Egbert. And I know everyone has their beliefs. I'm not discounting anybody that has a particular belief about something, okay? But there is a such thing about as being a hypocrite, okay? He hated Halloween. He hated anything associated with Halloween. He would talk about Halloween. Anybody that recognized Halloween, if you're just dressing in a costume or handing kids out, you're going to hell, you know. And some people don't like Halloween, and I'm not discounting that. Here's the problem, though. A lot of us would bring Halloween candy and put it on our desk at work. You know, I had a little ceramic pumpkin on my desk. I'd fill it up, and any different people would walk by, get candy. That's fine. If they didn't want to get candy. Now, remember, this guy hated Halloween. He hated anything related to it. He worked the night shift. When I come in the next day, that pumpkin was like this when I left of candy. Now it's down to this. He munched on Halloween candy all night long. And don't think I didn't call him out on that. And he commented one time, I had a little decoration on my desk, and he's calling me out. He goes, I don't like Halloween. And I pointed at that little pumpkin. I said, yeah, but you sure do like Halloween candy, don't you? Silence. So, yeah, that's in my play as well. So, yeah. You know, I would say that I could write a book on that guy, but I actually did. So maybe look for a play. I don't know if they'll call it Office War if I get a publisher, but that's the you can laugh at my personal pain as much as I have now. So oh man. Oh, then there was the guy. Wow, how do I describe this? Okay. Again, this is 20 years ago, and luckily the last few jobs I've had now, especially in this decade, even the last decade, nothing like that has happened. I've even told these stories to current employers, and they can't believe that happened. Had a good friend at work, and he was a much older person. We were friends before he became my boss. Okay, when he became my boss, we became even better friends, because he and I had fought some battles together with Egbert and with the other people that were there at the time. And we shared an office together. But long story short, one of his buddies that he'd known for a lot longer than me needed a job. They created a position just for him. They moved me out of the office with this guy across the hall to put his buddy there with him. And at that point, I didn't exist. I mean, it was just like, Bob who? He fawned over his buddy. He protected his buddy. No one could say anything negative about him unless you want to deal with this guy. And we had our first shouting match there within 6 months, because he wasn't helping me. He didn't recognize me, and but the biggest fight that we had is that his buddy said something or did something that was wrong. I mean, it was wrong procedure-wise. It was something with the machinery that was wrong. I pointed it out to him, and I thought my supervisor was going to chew my neck off. I mean, the unwritten rule was, this is me saying it, not this guy, but rule number 1, his buddy is never wrong about anything, okay? Never wrong about anything. Rule number 2, if you think his buddy has done something wrong, you better see rule number 1, and you better see it real quick. I mean, it was, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I've never seen a guy be so obsessed with another guy. I mean, I won't go any further than that. It wasn't where I looked like I was leading it, but this guy could walk, his new buddy, I feel like he thought he could walk on water. He could turn water into wine. He just praised this guy. You know, they'd go to lunch together, and a few times, before that, me and my boss would go together to lunch, and it'd be just fine. But when his buddy was hired, I'd always say, hey, man, you want to go to lunch? And he goes, well, me and my buddy, we've already made lunch plans, but you can come along with us, a.k.a. tag along. I became stepchild very, very, very quickly. So that's in the play, but I put a comic spin on that as well. So, so I'm sure we've all had, I'd like to hear if you got any chat in there, if anybody wants to say anything about, did you ever have a bad coworker and what made the coworker bad? I'd love to hear that. Oh, but one of the rudest ones I had, same company, I was working at a department, same department, and I was new. But I didn't have a lot of experience in that particular job. I do now. I was starting out. Well, within a month or two, my coworker, another coworker, I guess she got tired of me asking questions or helping me. She said, "Well, Bob, from now on, you can no longer ask questions." Okay, but what if I still need help? And she wouldn't talk to me. We would come in at 8 o'clock in the morning. Our desks were at 6 feet apart. And unless I said something, she wouldn't say something. So I tested her one time. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to say anything to her. Let's just see how long this morning goes before she says anything. It was after lunch, but I'm the one that had to break the silence because I asked a question. She made it clear she didn't like me. She didn't want me there. I think a lot of it, a friend of hers was there and quit. But she quit on her own. She left. And I can't help it. I'm the replacement. But I was there 6 months, and I was like, okay, this can't happen anymore. But she was real religious, though. But she treated me like, you know what. So, again, I put all this, I going back to Marilyn's book, where she wrote a lot about her problems and a lot of things that were going on. That's what I did. I put a comic spin on all of it right there. And so, so I can laugh about this now, but for too long, for many years, I carried all that stuff with me. And like, man, how could they say that? How could they do that? Oh, okay. I'm remembering another coworker, not at the same company, different company. He was one of those brown nosers. We've all worked with them, haven't we? Why was he a brown noser? Because he would type out company bulletins to put on the bulletin boards or hand out to people. And that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But he would have to physically sign his name to the original, then make copies so that everyone would know that he did that. I talk on the smallest memo to the largest memo, and he would write his full name, first, middle, last, and second, third, fourth, whatever he was, so that everybody would know, look, I did this. And there were other things he did that did that. I'm like, you're not impressing anybody, especially not your coworkers. So, speaking of brown nosers, same company. Yeah. Oh, I wish I could name this company, y'all, but I don't want a lawsuit. So, I'll just put it this way. It's only a company I used to work for. I won't even say if it even exists anymore. But this one, you'll love this one. Okay, let me set this up for you. Okay, my boss's office was at the end of the hallway. Okay, I'm the first cubicle. I wasn't a manager then. But I could look up and I could see his office. There was an empty cube behind me that a lady used to sit at, but she quit, okay? There's another lady behind her, okay? She was the company, you know what. So at the time, we had to do a lot of paperwork with the job that we were doing, okay? And it was her job to kind of look over to make sure everything looked good, everything was where it needed to be, all the formulas and all of the calculations were correct, were done. I understand that. That's her job. The lady that had been here before, that had quit, that was right behind me, we would help each other. I would tell her, I'll say, Rachel, that was not her name, but I'll say, Rachel, look, I was going through this paperwork and I saw that you missed a calculation here. Go ahead and put that in there before I have to file it. And she said, oh, yeah, sure. We weren't covering up anything. We were just trying to make sure the paperwork is correct. We don't want to get each other in trouble. And she'd do the same thing with me. She'd bring some paperwork to me and she goes, Bob, I went through the filing system and I saw this paperwork and you left this off, this dollar amount off. Oh, shoot, yeah, I sure did. So I get on my computer, make another one, put whatever money was there, do a new calculation, and we helped each other. That's what coworkers do. You don't try to backstab them. Well, the lady that sat behind the now empty cube didn't feel that way. So lots of times I'd be working at my cube, working away, blah, 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 blah. I would see this other woman walk by my cubicle with paperwork that I recognized was mine. At first, I was like, why is she carrying that? She went to our boss's office. At first, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Maybe she just has a question about something, a procedure. That happened. They'd be in there, and I'd look up, and they'd be talking behind the glass door back and forth for about a couple of minutes. Okay. Then she would leave, but she wouldn't have the paperwork with her. It'd still be on my boss's desk. Like clockwork. 10 seconds later, door opens. Bob, can you come here for a second? What's going on? So I'd walk in his office. Yeah, this paperwork that you had, Bob, we're missing a calculation right there. Okay, I'll go fix it. You need some extra training? Is there a problem here? No, it's not. I can go and fix it. It won't. It was an oversight. I'm sorry. So I'm picking up the paperwork, and I'm going back to my office. I'm looking directly at her. She's looking at other things. I'm like, it wouldn't have hurt you to come to my desk and point out my mistake. I could have fixed it right then. We could have refiled it. There'd have been no problem. But no, you had to go to our boss, say, Bob did this, Bob did that. And it wasn't just me, she did that too. She did that to everybody. And needless to say, she had very few friends there. It's just like, really? You passed my desk to go to my boss's office. You could have brought it to me, and I could have fixed it. It would have taken me 10 seconds max to fix it. But no, you got to go to my boss's office for 2 or 3 minutes. Then I get in trouble. I get talked to. I get a verbal reprimand. I mean, I'm asking you, those of you watching this, have you ever worked with someone like that? How do you deal with someone like that? I mean, I had to grit my teeth and just move on. So what do you do? Like I said, this was all this happened about 20 years ago. There was one particular company that could have gotten shut down. Yeah, you heard right. Could have gotten shut down. And what happened with this company, again, this is back in the early, mid-2000s. Again, all this happened about 20 years ago, and luckily I've had the pleasure of not working with people and companies like that now. And so God's blessed me. I guess he thought I had enough torture back then that I would appreciate a good job now that I have. But here's what happened. I had already put my 2-week notice in at this particular company because of the vice president of this particular company. They had hired a new girl to replace me in the meantime. So my last week there was her first week. So I'm training her. Okay. So she doesn't know who doesn't like who. She doesn't know all the gossip. So she's brand new. She's trying to learn. Well, her second day there, or third day there, might have been her third day there. I'm leaving on a Friday. This might have been a Wednesday. She comes up around the corner where the vice president's office was, and she has this really angry look on her face. I'm like, oh no. She's a new employee and she's already angry? So I sat her down and I'll say, well, so-and-so, what's wrong? She goes, I just went by this woman, vice president's office. Well, let me back up. I need to add the story. One of our jobs, my job and the department's job, is we had to go by the post office to pick up returned mail for this company. Some of it might have been really, really important, and we needed to find a new address for the company / person that went to. So that was part of our job that we would do during the day. It was like 5 miles to the post office and come right back. So, and by the way, we're also hourly employees. We have to clock in for the day, we clock out for lunch, clock back in for lunch, clock out for the day. So we're hourly. Everybody else is salaried that are management. Like I said, this new lady's mad now. I'm like, well, what's mad? She said, I went by the vice president's office, and she told me that from now on, when we get returned mail, we need to do that on our own time, during our lunch hour. I go, wait a minute, we're hourly employees. I don't think you can ask an hourly employee to do something on company time, do company work on their own time. So that Friday, I had an exit interview. It was my last day. And, I knew it was wrong, but I thought, well, I'm going to tell the HR lady anyway. So, are you aware that you've got a vice president at this company that wants hourly employees to do company work on their own time? And I told her the situation. Her eyes got big as saucers. She goes, that's illegal. I say, yeah, it really is, isn't it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you might want to say something about that. And I'm sorry. I was full of vengeance. I didn't like that vice president anyway. I'm like, this is payback, So I heard the following week after I left that she went to another manager who was salaried, not an hourly employee, and asked him to start getting the return mail. So I'm like, she got in trouble. And I found out later, a couple of years, she did get, a year later, she got fired. So karma, So, oh, yeah, I've had so much workplace from hell from the early 2000s. But again, and I don't say this just, because it is the truth. The last 10 years, I've been blessed with jobs, great managers, great supervisors. So I'm just wondering, the Lord works in mysterious ways. I'm just wondering if he thought, you know what? Bob's dealt with too many rude people and rude companies over the years. Let's give him a break. So, yeah, I bet y'all, I'd love to hear some more stories. I've heard stories, but I'm sure we've all had, I think every company has that. Maybe not the company I'm working at now, for sure, but every company, it seems like, most companies, maybe not all, has the proverbial brown noser, the proverbial know-it-all, the bad boss, the ineffective boss. What other personalities are there? Yeah, the brown noser's one, and then the know-it-all, and then the bad boss, the ineffective boss. So, it's been, like I said, office war. I'll have to get a hold of someone who's a writer. I got to cut it myself, and it's hard. I don't know if you've ever written a piece. I know I've had authors on this show before, but it's really, really hard to edit your own stuff, especially if it's a comedy. So I'm thinking, well, this is a funny scene. This is hilarious. But again, I would not sit through a 3-hour play. I know anybody else would either. So I've got to cut it down. Plays are usually what? Are they about an hour and a half to 2 hours long? So I gotta find some way to cut that. But I guess probably I'd get a professional editor to do that for me. But the stories that I have just are countless. I'm trying to think of one that just sticks out of my head, but it just, well, here's one for you. We had, at one time, the company had a game room, a teenage game room pool hall. Didn't serve alcohol. It was just for high school, college students only. But it had video games, pool tables, but across the street from our company. And normally there was a gate around the parking lot, but the gate was usually open. It never got closed or locked. Well, one time I had to work a little bit late. In the meantime, the game room across the street opened. Didn't see it happen. Didn't have cameras back then. But one of the kids decided to unscrew the antenna off of my car, and it was just gone. When I went out in the parking lot, it was gone. So I told my boss, I'm like, you know what? I need to start locking this thing at night, or locking this thing if I have to work late shift. And he goes, why? I said, well, someone took the antenna off my car, and they're telling us what they'll do. If they're going to do that, they're going to be in our parking lot doing whatever. And he looked at me and he goes, blocking the gates? Don't you think that might agitate them more? I'm like, they just ripped the antenna off my car. How much more agitated do you think they're going to get? I don't want to find out. So I had to go through that and finally got a lock on the car, a lock on the gate. I'm like, you know what? If that was your vehicle and your antenna got stolen, you wouldn't be so passive either. And I also had to fight for a cell phone. You're going to love this story. You're going to be like, Bob, fight for a cell phone? Yes, fight and prove that I needed a company cell phone. Okay, here you go. Now I'm going to age myself when I say this. This was in the day of pagers. Pagers were popular back then. And I had told, and then we didn't have GPS back then. So yes, the dinosaurs were roaming the earth when this happened. And they would send me out to different locations, but I wasn't familiar with this area, should I say. And I'd get lost. I had to get paper maps and find out and just pull over, hey, where's such and such address? But my boss was very familiar. I said, well, why don't you give me a cell phone so that way if I get lost, I can tell you where I'm at, and then you can tell me, okay, you go up this highway, whatever, turn right here, look for this big mall here. But they just kept giving me a pager. They would want to page me, then I have to find somewhere to call them. And I told them, give me a cell phone, but this went on for months. Finally, I got into some traffic. I mean, heavy traffic. I can't remember if it was an accident, if it was kind of construction work, whatever. It's a 3-lane highway, and I'm right in the middle. I can't go forward, backwards, sides. We're just it's a parking lot right now. I looked over to my right, and there's a service station over there with a payphone way over there. Okay, I should have already been at the locations they sent me and back, but I'm still in traffic. All of a sudden, bzz, bzz, there's my pager. Oh, work is calling. Okay. So I sit there for another 30 minutes, maybe have moved 6 inches. Bzz, bzz. Oh, there's my work again. I thought, well, I can do one of two things. I can just sit here and ignore it, or I can close the door to my car, lock it up in the highway while we're not moving anyway, walk across the street to the payphone, tell my boss, hey, I'm stuck in traffic. I'm calling from a payphone. I get it back to the car. Okay, this went on. We were stuck there about 45 minutes to an hour till I finally reached my destination. I wasn't going to bother to call them. I'm like, no. So then I went back to the office. Of course, where were you, Bob? We've been paging you. And I said, yeah, here's all your pages right here. While I was stuck in 3-lane traffic, not moving anywhere. If I had a cell phone, I could have told you what was going on. Less than a week later, I had a company cell phone. Isn't that amazing how that works? When the chips are down, and when you've finally proven your point. 1 week after that fiasco, I had a company cell phone. Isn't that amazing how that works? Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that company. Oh, I will say this truthfully: the company that I'm talking about does not exist anymore. They were bought by another company, and they laid off most of the people there. I was one of the ones that got laid off, and I could not have been happier. Believe me, I hated losing my job, but I had actually had another job waiting for me when this job played out. And everybody else was crying. A lot of people were crying. And I was like, I couldn't hide my enthusiasm. I'm getting laid off. I'm away from these people once and for all. It might be a bad thing to do, but I got a severance package, and I had another job waiting for me, a better job. It all worked out for the best. So, but on a serious note, though, and I'll tell those people who are watching this. I mean, I know we've had fun, but there was a kind of a trap that some coworkers fell in at this other company, and I might just pass it. This is serious advice now, y'all. We live in an ever-changing world. It's a technical world. Technology is changing. You have to multitask. It's not the same world that even was 20 years ago. The reason I say that, and I take this my own advice here, don't get so set on doing one thing. Try to learn different things. Pull things. It may not be your job, but just kind of keep pulling information. The problem, the reason I say that, there were some people that at this company that I worked for, this was their job. This was their only job. They didn't want to see what's left or right. This is what they want to do. They want to do just enough to get the job done. They don't care. They had the blinders set on. Don't tell me about anything. Well, the rest of us were trying to get cross-trained. We were reading brochures, reading different procedures. So when the company got bought, for some of us, hey, yeah, well, we don't have a lot of experience what this company's wanting, this other company's wanting, but we know something about it. So for a lot of us, it was easy for us to find another job. It may not be exactly what we were doing, but we pretty much had the knowledge to go somewhere else. The people that were doing this, that didn't want to learn and didn't want to know anything, they struggled, and some of them stayed on unemployment for a while. The saddest one, there was a lady, she had all kinds of technical experience, but she was one of those that put the blinders on. Nothing wrong with working fast food. I want to preface that. But with her technical knowledge, she couldn't find a job doing just that. She went to work for a fast food restaurant as a fountain lady. And I saw her, and I felt sorry for her. I'm like, and I wanted to tell her, if you had just opened your mind up to different things, you could have found another job. what you were doing, but she was one of those like, don't tell me anything. I don't want to know anything, and she wasn't making ends meet. And so the reason I tell you that story, folks, whether, especially those of you like me that's in the workplace, keep learning. Don't close your mind. Let your boss know, hey, I'd like to learn this, and make sure you let them know that's not just to benefit you, it's to benefit the company. Like, how else can I benefit the company? What if I did this? What if I did that? It was really sad because a lot of people that just kept the blinders on really had a hard time finding other work, and they were underemployed when they did find other work. So, yeah, that was the saddest thing to go. But, okay, we're almost out of time, but I will tell you this funny story. Our last day, this is the company I was just telling you about that we fought and fought and fought. This was the boss that hired his buddy, and his buddy could do no wrong, and his buddy hung the moon and stars and could do no wrong and ignored the rest of his department. And the last few months, he and I could not even be in the same room. That's a whole other story because we just couldn't get along, But the very last day, we knew it was our last day before we walked out the door, before the new company took over. And I remember thinking when I walked in at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, this is the last time I have to see that guy or deal with that boss because we're going our separate ways. Well, here's what happened. I'm at 8 o'clock in the morning. My stuff's already packed. This is my last shift. I'm out the door. Just about at 8:01, 8:02 a.m., he walks into my room. I'm like, oh no. I thought I could get through the last day without seeing this guy again. And here he is standing in front of my desk. You got to picture this. He and I have not gotten along. Now he's standing in front of my desk, and I'm sitting there, and he comes, hey, Bob, come over here for a second. And I'm standing up, and I'm walking over there, and I'm thinking, what are we going to do? Are we going to duke it out the last day? I mean, this is our last day. Are we really going to have it out? You ready for this? Get your vomit bags ready. He put his arms around me, gave me a big old hug. Bob, it was really great working with you, and I wish you the best of luck. Well, to be nice, I hugged him back, but I remember thinking, you don't mean a word of that. I'm like, we haven't even gotten along in 2 months. You're just trying to soothe your guilty conscience, And I didn't say, maybe that was wrong, but I didn't tell him it was good working for him. When he told me it was good working with me and good luck, he said, good luck in the future. I just looked at him and I went, okay, thank you. He just stood there for a second. I did not reciprocate. He walked out the door and I'm like, okay, hopefully that's the end. It wasn't. Lunchtime comes around. I'm like, okay, this is my last lunch at this company. I'm walking down the hallway. He's in his office. He goes, Bob, wait a minute. Stop for a second. I'm like, no. He goes, well, this is our last day, so I'm going to go ahead and leave at lunchtime. There's really no reason to stay, so if you want to go ahead and leave at lunchtime, you can. I said, okay. I knew right then, no, I'm not. I'm going to put in a full day. I'm going to find out what these last 4 hours are like without you here. Petty, childish, yes. But if you knew the years that I went through, I'm like, okay. And when he walked out the door, it's like you could just feel the dust settling. I'm like, I can breathe now. Not only is this my last day, these last 4 hours are spent without him. So, yeah, that's in my play as well. So, hopefully you will see that. Again, it's called Office War, but again, if I can find a publisher, it might change. So, again, stress, names of people and names of companies have been changed. Well, I was going to say to protect the innocent, but I guess you could say protect the guilty. Oh, really? So, let me just say one more thing. We're about to go, but I apologize to my guest tonight, Marilyn Kriete. For those of you that are just tuning in, Marilyn Kriete was my guest tonight. She has a book out, here it is, called The Box Must Be Empty, a memoir of complicated grief, spiritual despair, and ultimate healing. She was on my show earlier tonight, but we had some sound difficulties. She said she could hear me, but I could not hear her. We could see her, but we just couldn't see. I couldn't. I could see her, but I couldn't hear her. So check out her book, ladies and gentlemen. And then here is her website. You can get a lot of information from here. It's MarilynKriete.com. That's MarilynKriete.com. away.Besides.com. She has got a wealth of information. So you can contact her, you can leave reviews, you can buy her book there. And just so you know, she will be back. We'll try to get these gremlins out of the system wherever they happen. I apologize, but you know, I've said before, when you're doing a live show, you don't know what's going to happen. So check out her website in the meantime, and that way when she's back on the show, you'll be able to see her works and get to know more about her. And she's got a very, very interesting blog on her website as well. So go check that out, ladies and gentlemen. And that's kind of why I talked about what I'm talking about tonight, about, you know, complicated grief, spiritual despair. I used to, you know, like I said, I used to worry about what other people thought, especially coworkers. But you don't have time for that. Don't let them live rent-free in your house, in your home, or in your mind. They don't care. So I can laugh about it now. So hopefully you can do the same. So that's all for me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thanks for sticking with me, and I apologize for the technical difficulties, but Marilyn will be back, and we will have another guest next week on the Van Buren Variety Show. So if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So thanks for sticking with me and hearing about my personal pain and former coworkers and former work that I had 20 years ago. So again, I can laugh about it. So that's all for me tonight. I will be back next week with another guest, Tuesday evenings, 7 p.m. Central and 8 p.m. Eastern. Good night, everybody.